Hi all, Tom here. Recently I ordered the Roman album for Howl's Moving Castle, and in it contains a dictionary section that describes certain things in the film that you might or might not know. It writes more elaborately on what's contained in this world of Howl's Moving Castle. I hope this will help you understand the film more and that my translation is up to snuff. Blue sky. The blue sky in the wasteland is characterized by a clear blue. According to the art director Noboru Yoshida, he initially drew a pale blue sky, but the director's ordered to make it bluer. Blue bus. Sophie gets on the steam engine track bus on her way to Cessari's. Although it was not said so in the film, in the storyboard, Miyazaki called it a blue bus. Devil. Suliman often says, "That child was fascinated by the devil and left me." These words can be taken literally as devil, but if anything, it is the darkness of the heart. In other words, it would be more correct to interpret it as using magic as a force for selfishness. Alsace Region. In response to the director's words, I want to create a European atmosphere. The main staff of the drawing and art department decided to go on a trip to Europe before the start of production. The main destination was Alsace Region of France. It is an inland region of East France, and is known as the region where the two countries have been in conflict with each other many times in history, as it borders with Germany. Witch of the Waste. Originally a witch from a royal family, she was banished from her seat by making a pact with the devil and was banished to the wastelands, and became known as the Witch of the Waste. Her name is feared by all. Receiving an invitation from the king, she came to the royal palace overjoyed. Did she come to the royal palace because she wanted to be hired again by the royal family, or to take her revenge on Suliman? In any case, she fell into Suliman's trap and returned to her real age. Good food, umashikate-yo, often said in Howl's home as itadakimasu. It may be a common phrase in Sophie's world. AA beer. Advertisement written on the blue bus. Is it a popular beer in this world? Pigtails. The castle collapsed because Calcifer was taken out. When Sophie asks Calcifer to move the castle, Calcifer replies that he needs something. She gave her hair, and Calcifer used it as an energy source to regenerate the castle. After cutting off the pigtails, Sophie's impression will change significantly. In the storyboard, there's a note saying, and the heroine appears. Otama People. A transformed figure of a royal wizard under Suliman. Since it is a mixture of tadpoles, dragonflies, and lizards, they are given the common name of O-tamajin or Otamang on the storyboard. Grandma, Oba-chan. This is the name Sophie and company call the Witch of the Waste when she returns to form. By saying this, Sophie's process of creating the family is forming. The mirror, projecting Sophie's character in the first half of the story, an important item. She used one before setting out to see Letty. She wore a beautiful hat and looked at the mirror and felt sick. After becoming cursed by the Witch of the Waste, she looks at the mirror and was upset by her appearance. However, the next day, Sophie wakes up in her room and can afford to encourage herself in the mirror, even though she hasn't returned to her original appearance. Did Sophie's negative mental change begin here? Family, kazoku. Everyone in Howl's castle gradually creates a family atmosphere. Howl himself seemed to decide to leave everyone in the castle when he moved. The young Markl, especially, has a strong sense of affection towards the family. When Honey visited, Markl said, "Sophie, don't go. Aren't we family?" Turnip, or Kabu. A scarecrow found by Sophie in the wasteland. Sophie quickly realizes that he is under some magic. It's a judgment unique to a world where magic is commonplace. And since he has a head of a turnip, Sophie called him Turnip. Afterwards, Kabu will follow Sophie for various conveniences. At the end, it turned out to be a prince from a neighboring country, who has to be kissed from a loved one for the curse to be dispelled. In the original proposal of the film, he is a character who has a much scarier image, and Sophie is terrified by his visits. Calcifer, the devil of fire who signed a contract with Howl. Originally a shooting star child, before he fell to the ground. When he first saw Sophie, he said, "That sure is a mixed up curse." He says that if she can help dispel his contract with Howl, he can dispel hers. It's not known whether Calcifer was actually able to do that. He likes to eat bacon and eggs and also eats Sophie's hair. When he eats a part of a human, his magic power greatly enhances. Calcifer has Howl's heart inside and moves the castle by magical powers. When asked to do something, he complains at first, but in time he concedes. He's a good-natured devil. Kingbury, the royal capital of Sophie's country, a glittering city. The people who live here enjoy peace as if there's no wars in the distance. The Skywalk, an aerial walk that will help Howl grab Sophie's heart. While walking in the air, Howl looks princely, and while in the air, he praises her, saying, "Very good." It would be a troublesome situation for any girl. The storyboard of the scene says, "This is where the misunderstanding is born." Humiliation. Sophie disturbed the magic of the bathroom and Howl's hair turned back to black. What humiliation! If I can't be beautiful, I can't continue living. These words really hurt Sophie. For 18 years of her life, Sophie never once felt she was beautiful. No matter how she was in the wrong, it is of course difficult for her to apologize to Howl. The king. The king of Sophie's kingdom is a macho person, both mentally and physically. He was enthusiastic about fighting the enemy, and even when he saw his fake self in Howl's disguise, he laughed. The next clone is well done. Looking at his blunt attitude, it makes one wonder how calmly he thought about the current situation of entering the war. Young servants. Young boys who serve Suliman. They all have the same hair, face, and clothes. We're not sure whether they are human or a creation of Suliman's. It's not clear from the film or storyboards. Rubber humans. Commonly used in Howl's world. They can be expanded and contracted like rubber, and they split and join. It is also possible to change the size of the body. They seem to be made portable, where the Witch of the Waste uses a small teapot to store them. It's unknown why they all wear silk top hats. Suliman. Madame Suliman. She's an intelligent old woman with a high position as a royal wizard, capable of summoning the Prime Minister and the Chief of Staff. She taught Howl at the magic school, and held him in high esteem as her successor. For that reason, she is unhappy with the Howl of today, who lives a life of idleness and does not work much. Her magical power is immense, and she's able to rob the magic of the Witch of the Waste and pull Howl into the world of illusion. It is also said that her magical power prevents the royal family from being hit by enemy bombs. The invitation. The king uses the mayors to send letters of invitation. It is calling for the participation in the war. The mayors of the capitals call out in anguish. Finally, war is upon us. Magic wielders, spellcasters, and even witches are called upon to cooperate with the state. The king even tries to treat witches as their people, even though they are avoided in general by society. It doesn't take too much to perceive the arrogance of the state here. The castle. In the original proposal, the idea was to have a floating castle, but Mr. Miyazaki's idea was to have a walking castle. Regarding the legs, there were proposals to have 6 or 8 legs, but it is said that the digital animation director, Mr. Katama, made a prototype of the castle with 4 legs, and it was decided. The castle is made of a collection of various parts. It is a castle of papier-mâché, which Miyazaki says. It has a cannon, but it looks like a sham. Not only the power of the castle, but also the shape of the castle is due to the magical power of Calcifer, and it collapses when Sophie takes Calcifer out. After that, it became smaller and revived, but it collapsed further when the Witch of the Waste grabbed Howl's heart and Sophie splashed water on it. At the end, it simply looks like a raft. The youngest sister. Sophie entered the wasteland after explaining to the shepherd that she was going to visit her youngest sister who lived in the Middle Valley. Although she did not appear in the film and was not even given a name. In the original story, Sophie and Letty have a sister named Martha. Was it Martha's heart that was taken by Howl? Sophie Hatter, the eldest daughter, an 18-year-old girl who works diligently and is taken for granted that she will succeed the hat shop left by her father. In her heart, she realizes that she can't find what she wants to do and isn't confident with her appearance, so she can't go out to the outside world. Life suddenly changed due to the encounter with Howl and the curse by the Witch of the Waste. She becomes more honest and forthcoming. Sophie's workplace. A small workplace in the corner of the Hatter hat store. For Sophie, it was the only place where she could be herself. In the storyboard of the scene where Sophie is doing needlework, there's a note saying, "I'm always like a figurine." Sophie's teeth. Even if she turned 99 years old, it seemed like her teeth were strong. In the wilderness, when eating alone, she took a bite of what looked to be hard bread. "I'm glad that my teeth remain the same," she would say with appreciation. Sophie's skin. Sophie, astonished to see in the mirror that she became a 90-year-old grandmother, checks the wrinkles on her face by touching it. Director Miyazaki thoroughly explains on how to draw the skin. The skin of the elderly is not elastic, so once pressed, it takes time to recover. Animation director Kitaro Kosaka said that he had to keep this in mind by looking at his own skin. Cessari's. In the heart of the town, Sophie's younger sister Letty works at Cessari's, a pastry shop and cafe. Letty is in charge of the chocolate section, and she is popular with the male customers. Sophie as the eldest sister. Sophie's obsession. The stereotypes of "I'm the eldest daughter, so I have to be firm," or "I'm the eldest daughter, so I have to take over the house," puts the brakes on her true feelings. Letty, who lives freely and is loved by everyone, seems to be frustrated by her sister's reserved way of thinking. The bird cane. The cane that Kabu somehow found for Sophie. The design of the cane is shaped as a bird, but where did Kabu get it from? The door. The magical door to Howl's castle. When you turn the knob, the color dial turns. Each color is connected to a different location. Green is the wastelands, red is Kingbury, blue is the harbor town, black is the place that only Howl knows, in the battlefield. After moving, the color of the disc changed by only 2 colors. The pink connected to the flower field, and the yellow to the former Hatter hat store. Middle Valley, the place where Sophie, who escaped from the Hatter hat shop, made her destination for the time being. It is said that the youngest sister lives there, but it does not appear in the story. Tears. Chihiro's tears in Spirited Away has some large tears, but the tears from Sophie are equally, if not more, larger. Mr. Akihito Yamashita, who was a first-time animation director for Miyazaki's work in this film, laughed that he was confused because the tears were so big at first, but then he analyzed that Mr. Miyazaki was trying to convey a deep emotional expression. Peepworm, a black rubber-like insect that Suliman placed in Honey's drawstring. Honey would get inside Howl's castle and leave it there. The Witch of the Waste finds it and gives Calcifer the peepworm. However, when Calcifer eats the worm, it seems like his power weakens. Even the cigar that the witch smokes also has the same kind of effect, and later the castle gets air-bombed. The curse that turned Sophie into a 99-year-old woman. She tries telling Markl about the curse, but her mouth closes. The Witch of the Waste boasts, "I am able to cast curse, but I can't melt the curse." This may be true since we never had a scene where she dispelled the curse. However, Sophie's appearance began to change between the ages of 18 and 90, depending on her heart, and the curse seems to have diminished in effectiveness. The one thing that I remember is Calcifer's words when he first met Sophie. That's a really confused curse. The word confused would be taken to mean that Sophie has put a curse on herself on top of the curse placed on her by the Witch of the Waste. Sophie, who was not confident in her existence, may have happily accepted her new form as an old lady, so she can escape from her former self. She would fluctuate between different ages depending on her mood, and finally, she would regain herself in the end. Howl, a beautiful young man that knows how to wield magic. He is Suliman's last disciple and genius talent. He refuses to actively engage with society and lives in a castle that roams the wasteland. On the other hand, he couldn't be a recluse completely, and he has some pseudonyms and is involved with the townspeople as a wizard, and the town rumors say that he takes the heart of young women. However, the person in question is delicate enough to summon the spirit of darkness just by being shaken by a girl, but at the same time, he has a strong self-love. To be clear, he's a good boy, but he's a bad, hopeless guy. The cause for him to receive the wrath of the Witch of the Waste is from what he said. "I thought she might be a fun person, and I approached her." At first, Sophie was also blinded in love in Howl's sophisticated mannerisms, but it is doubtful that Howl was aware of Sophie's feelings. As a boy, he made a pact with a star child, who fell from the sky and swallowed it. He swallows it and takes out his own heart, which is wrapped in red fire. The fire becomes Calcifer, and his life in the moving castle begins. Howl's uncle. It does seem that he was a wizard after all. Perhaps Howl aimed to become a wizard under the influence of this uncle. He died leaving a secret garden and watermill to Howl. Howl's heart, inside of Calcifer's body, something the Witch of the Waste hasn't stopped wanting. In the end, Sophie takes it out of his body with her hand. Was it Sophie's magical power that allowed both Howl and Calcifer to live? Howl's room. Howl's room is filled with many magical goods. It's just like the many of the young people today who keep action figures and hang things in their room, Mr. Miyazaki explains to his staff. Note that the scene in Howl's room, which is inundated with objects, involves all departments of drawing, harmony, art, and computer graphics to create a complex interior with countless small objects scattered about. Hatter's Hat Shop. Originally, the hat shop was her father's. Her mother, Honey, took over the business, but Honey often went out with young men and did not show up at the store, and the once thriving store began to go downhill. Sophie, as the eldest daughter, is trying to support the store that her father left behind. The move made it Howl's home. In the second half of the film, the hat shop became part of Howl's castle, which would mean that after Sophie left in the beginning of the film, the store was gone as well. Flower field. After they moved, the pink door led to the flower garden. Howl spent many summers alone in his youthful days here. This small house with a flower garden and a water wheel is what his wizard uncle left him. He is trying to present his past to Sophie in a positive light. This is also like a confession. You can pick flowers here and make a flower shop together with their hat shop. With these words, was it a proposal? But in this scene, Sophie, not believing the young beautiful Howl, was going back and forth in age. Flower shop. And just as Howl said, Sophie and her friends then ran a flower shop in the vacant storefront where the Hatter's Hat Shop used to be. Markl delivers flowers disguised as a grandfather. Honey Hatter, Sophie's mother, a flashy woman. In the beginning of the story, she goes shopping with her young lover to Kingsbury. Once Sophie starts living in Howl's castle, Honey closes the shop and remarries to a rich man somewhere. In the second half of the story, Honey returns back to the original Hatter shop location to see Sophie, but she is just doing Suliman's bidding. Knowingly placing her daughter in trouble, she leaves the drawstring with Suliman's magic in it on the table in Howl's castle. We don't know how the late father thought of it, but the women in the Hatter family do not share a sense of family with each other. One interesting thing to note is that as the country is being swept away into war fever, Honey buys a hat with a cannon on it. Cigar. The cigar that the Witch of the Wasteland has smoked before the air raid. In fact, this was the cigar in Honey's drawstring, which she had left at Howl's house through Suliman's instructions. and the smoke had the effect of weakening Calcifer's magical powers. The Witch of the Waste knowingly knew this, but smoked anyways. When Howl returned, he gracefully held out his hand and said, "Madame, this is a gift from Suliman," and let the Witch of the Waste fumble with the cigar. The move. After being chased by Suliman, Howl's door to the harbor town in Kingbury became unusable, and as his family grew, he decided to move magically. Howl draws magic circles on the ground under the castle and on the floor of the living room and evacuates everyone to the side of the room and activates his magic. The floor plan changed in the meantime, and the yellow door was now connected to the Hatter shop and the pink door to the flower garden. Basically, Howl connects the door to an abandoned house in town, so the move reveals that the Hatter hat shop was already gone. Heen, Suliman's dog. When they first met, Sophie thought that the dog was Howl in a transformed state. Afterwards, he is always together with Sophie and company. In fact, his role was to report to Suliman the status of the group throughout their time together, but he only did it at the end of the movie. The Flying Kayak. A kayak that flies in the sky like a bug with two wings. It is not a vehicle commonly used by the common people, but seems to be used only by the upper echelon of the country and the military. When Sophie first entered the royal palace, Air Force officers had their families and lovers flying a flying kayak on the premise. Howl and Company's breakfast. Animation staff Atsuko Tanaka obtained a block of bacon and actually cooked it to use it as a reference for her drawing. Howl's way of cooking was very similar. It is generally said that a man who can cook is popular with the ladies. Pendragon, the wizard who lives in Kingbury, one of Howl's pseudonyms. It sounds more renowned than Jenkins and is the same name as King Arthur. Star Lake. It's the beautiful lake located in the wastelands. It's the place where Howl and Calcifer made the pact together. Magic King. By continuously transforming into a monster, the mind is eroded by the body, and it becomes a complete monster. By the end of the film, Howl was almost in complete Magic King form. Madge. A girl who lives in the harbor town. She goes to Jenkins, asking for a spell to help her father fish. Seeing Sophie, she misunderstands her as a witch. Magic School, a national school that Howl once attended. Howl was forced to take a vow to cooperate with the royal family when he entered the School of Magic. It is unknown if only extremely talented students like Howl made the pledge, or if all students were required to do so. However, if the state is going to raise someone with a powerful force of magic, it would not be surprising if they tried to manage their life after graduation. Markl, a child who lives in Howl's castle, the sorcerer's disciple learning magic from Howl. Putting on a cloak transforms him into a dubious old man. But that was the only magic that Markl showed. He doesn't like potatoes or fish. The sticky green goop, the thing that comes out of Howl when he gets depressed. The aim is not to get dumped. The storyboard writes celery sauce, which I guess means that kids don't like celery sauce. Straw hat, Sophie's favorite item. It was a plain hat that she wore when she went to the royal palace. From that obsession, it turns out that the hat is Sophie's identity. The memo. The time that Sophie made her way to Cessari's, she was holding onto a memo. From the looks of it, it had the address of Cessari's written on it, which means this is the first time that Sophie has actually seen Letty. Is it possible that the two sisters haven't met since the day they all went their separate ways? Spirit of Darkness, when Howl became depressed because of his black hair. In his depression, he called out the terrifying shadows. According to Markl, this happened before when he was dumped by a girl. The ring that Howl gave to Sophie who went to the royal palace. Howl gave it to her in case of a crisis, but maybe Sophie thought that it had more meaning. In the storyboard, Mr. Miyazaki writes, "It seems like men and women look at the meaning of a ring differently. When Sophie returns on the flying kayak with the Witch of the Waste and Heen, the ring guides her back to the castle. It also helps her find the door to Howl's past and directs her out of the darkness." The bathroom. A terribly dirty bathroom in Howl's castle, the muddy tub and the paint-splattered walls. In the storyboard, Mr. Miyazaki writes, "It's so dirty that you need courage to draw it." Still, they didn't have enough courage to show the inside of the toilet bowl. As dirty as this bathroom is, it's a wonder how Howl was still able to utilize it. Was it the fact that Howl only thought about purifying his body? Or perhaps he needed the dirt as some part of the magic to clean himself? Weakling. Howl says, "I finally found someone that I can protect. It's you," as he proceeds to battle. But as he flies into the wastelands to fight, she can't help but worry. "As long as we are here in Hatter shop, Howl will keep on fighting," Sophie says, and she proceeds to destroy the castle. "He is better as a weakling," Sophie says. The thought that a loved one never has to be strong was a very sympathetic, life-size expression of love. The dragon carpet. A large dragon carpet laid in the waiting room where Sophie and the Witch of the Waste passed through at the royal palace. It was Mrs. Sayaka Hirahara who was in charge of the carpet in Yubaba's room at the time of Spirit of the Way, who also drew the pattern with that exotic atmosphere. Okay, that's all. Hope you liked it and thanks for sticking till the end. Like and subscribe if you can. See you on the next one. Thanks.